Linkin Park's Mike Shinoda says rock music felt too white. Plus, Miley Cyrus is recording an entire album of Metallica covers. She's apparently a metalhead now. Plus, we pay tribute to the outfield frontman Tony Lewis, who unfortunately passed away today at just 62 years old. We got a lot to get to today. Stick with us. Good evening and welcome to Rock Feed. Thanks so much for joining us. If you're new here, before we get started, please take 1 second and hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you don't miss out about breaking news of your favorite bands. It helps the channel more than you know. It's the best way to support. All right, we got to pay tribute to the great Tony Lewis from the outfield. You know that song, I Just Want to Lose Your Love Tonight. Real classic, just an amazing song from the outfield, an 80s classic. I think it was in a lot of movies. I've always loved that song. You know, a lot of cover bands at local bars play it all the time. It gets the crowd moving. Truly one of the best like pop rock songs that were ever written. And we have this statement, unfortunately, from Tony Lewis's family, who posted the following statement that says, it's with great sadness and sorrow to announce that Tony Lewis has unexpectedly passed away. He was a beautiful soul that touched so many lives with his love, his spirit, and his music. He loved his fans dearly and enjoyed every opportunity he had when he was meeting all of you. And so we just want to say that Tony Lewis, rest in peace. Thank you for the music. Thank you for the memories. And your friends, your family, and your fans love you. We send our hearts out to them during this very difficult time. All right, and let's move on and let's talk about Miley Cyrus, who's revealed she's working on a new album. This album's not going to be comprised of original music, which is fine, but rather it's going to be a covers album. Covers can be fun, but the eyebrows were raised when she revealed she's going to be releasing an album of Metallica covers. And obviously that's not sitting well with a lot of metal fans, and this is the story over from Metal Hammer. It says Miley Cyrus is making Metallica covers albums. Yes, you read that correctly. Just when you thought 2020 couldn't get crazier, Miley Cyrus announces that she's working on this covers album. We checked the date and it's not April 1st. Miley Cyrus is making a Metallica covers album. So she dropped this during an interview with Interview Magazine. She says, we've been working on a Metallica cover album and I'm here working on that. We're so lucky to be able to continue to work on our art during all of this. At first it felt uninspiring and now it's been totally ignited. She has previously performed a Metallica cover. She did Nothing Else Matters. Here's a little bit of that. So there's a little bit of that. And so for those of you who are saying, oh man, you know, who needs this? Who doesn't need this? First of all, it doesn't hurt anybody if she does a Metallica cover album. Second of all, hey, we're getting a little bit of mainstream love, which brings in more fans and brings in more success for the bands. It gets more eyes on the product from a business perspective. A rising tide lifts all boats. If maybe this will lead to Metallica playing the Super Bowl halftime show. Who the hell knows? So it's good to see Metallica getting that nod from a pop star as big as Miley Cyrus. You know, she's a fun person. She's a hell of a singer. She's very talented, and you know what? She deserves credit for liking metal. I never get bent out of shape when celebrities say, you know what, I like metal. And maybe the reason that all these award shows shy away from us is that when you have somebody like this that comes out and says they support a band, there's a group of us that's like ready to beat them back with a stick. No, this is my thing. This is my underground music. And, Metallica is certainly far from underground. So I'm looking forward to hear it. I think she's working with Ozzy Osbourne's producer, the guy who also produces Post Malone, and he's very talented. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. And now we have a new interview from Linkin Park's Mike Shinoda, and he is speaking about the landscape of rock and metal prior to Linkin Park coming onto the scene. And he points out, in his opinion, that he felt that rock and metal, particularly hair metal, was too white prior to Linkin Park and the nu metal explosion. So he comes out and he says, obviously they released their Hybrid Theory Deluxe Edition and it was very well. And he says, at the time, if you asked somebody what they were listening to, they'd say rock. I listened to hip hop. I listened to jazz. It wasn't until 5 years later that they'd say everything. Hybrid Theory did some of that work. It was part of the progression towards breaking down the boundaries between styles of music. I listened to 90% rap music. Then I'd look at a lot of rock bands and I'd be like, there's something too white about it. That'd be one of the things that turned me off, especially hair metal. Hair metal felt like it was very white music, and I was growing up in a very diverse city, so I didn't gravitate to it. That didn't resonate with me, and it wasn't about race. I don't mean the color of the skin, I just mean the culture of it. When nu metal started at the very beginning, it was a very diverse place. So, a lot of people are getting kind of bent out of shape by this from Mike Shinoda saying this. Now, I'm a big fan of not canceling people for the things they say. And so, whether I agree with the way that Mike Shinoda said that or the way anybody says that, shouldn't be canceling anybody, shouldn't be, offended by what people say. But, I do think it didn't come off great. I understand what he means. I know what he's trying to say. And what I believe that he's trying to say is that it was very one-dimensional for a time. And it was very much, it was pretty white. Before we had bands like Seven Dust, before we had bands like God Forbid bursting out on the scene. And yes, before we had before we had like Linkin Park collaborating with Jay-Z, which was a very big deal at the time. I remember that. So I understand what he's trying to say. He's trying to say that there was a lot more cross collaboration going on after Linkin Park than there was before. Rock prior to that was very much in its own space. There wasn't a lot of these cool cross collaborations that you see happening now. You weren't seeing guys like Kanye West who are now, wearing a Metallica shirt out in public, or again, Jay-Z working with Linkin Park and talking about how big of a fan he was, or, even seeing, there's another good point he makes here is that I remember at Woodstock 99, you had like Puff Daddy on the side of the stage and they're like, oh, what are you here to see? And he's like, I'm here to see Korn. I'm here to see and Kid Rock. He came there because he was a fan of rock. So I think that's a cool thing. And, I don't think that he means that he hates white people or anything. And somebody pointed out there, like, hey, man, like, you're in Linkin Park, like, so I get what he means. Again, let's not be out here trying to cancel people. Everyone should have the right to say things, and let's lead by example on that. And he says there was a moment when that term nu metal and what it meant was actually pretty cool. It's almost impossible to imagine. I remember when Korn first came out and when Deftones' first couple albums came out, and whatever you think about a group like Limp Bizkit, their first album was really raw. There were all these groups like Snot and Head PE, and it wasn't smart music, but there was something really visceral and culture bending that was important. And I agree with them. Again, a lot of people are reading that headline and they're taking it to be a real negative. I think that, what he's pointing out is that rock music, if I can express this in the clearest way possible, rock music really was focused on one culture. And then when nu metal incorporated things like hip hop culture in and stuff like that, then it brought in different interests and things like that. So I think he's right. I think nu metal is heavily hip hop influenced, and I would love to see nu metal come back. So, let's get a new Limp Bizkit record out here, folks. All right. Anyways, that is all for now. Thanks so much for joining us today at Rockfeed. If you're new here, please consider subscribing with notifications on so you don't miss out on breaking news and updates. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you all very soon.